it's Mrs. Samsel back in the art room. This week we are learning about Pointillism with artist George Seurat. George Seurat lived only 31 years and made just 7 major paintings. He painted like no one else, and people were stunned when they saw his work. Seurat's technique is called Pointillism. Instead of applying paint with brushstrokes, he filled his canvas with tiny dots. When seen up close, the dots keep their shape, but when viewed from a distance, they seem to blend. Pointillism is our inspiration today. We are going to create a collage of leaves. We're going to use some pointillism techniques with Q-tips, and we're going to overlap our leaves. So in art today, we are going to look at a variety of leaves and how we can cut and collage them on. I'm going to introduce you to some different techniques, and we're gonna need a lot of different materials. Now, whatever you have at home will be perfectly fine. If you have a watercolor paint palette and water cup, that'd be great. A few pieces of white paper. Think this is just printer paper that we have laying around. Think I'm gonna need one for my background, and at least 2 more to cut out the leaves after I design them. Maybe 4 total. So in my pile, I'm gonna get my 4. If you have markers you wanna color with, that would be great. Crayon, and of course, always a pencil to work with in your drawing, and scissors and a glue stick. Go ahead, pause the movie, get your materials, and come back to join me for art. So let's start first with our background. I want to get us in the habit of writing our name. So if you haven't done that yet, on the back of your paper, please write your name. My name is Mrs. Samsel, and this is Mrs. Samsel's art room. I'm going to turn that over, and we are going to begin with some crayons. And this is going to be, I was kind of thinking like a sky. So I'm going to add a little bit of white and create what's called a resist. So the crayon has wax in it and color pigment. And when I add it on the paper and then paint on it, the crayon still shows up. So I know you can't see anything that I'm creating, but right now I am creating some spirals and wavy lines and some clouds, and just kind of creating almost like this windy picture that my leaves will glue on. And I'm not gonna get too worried about it because, again, I'm gonna glue a lot of leaves on it. So I have some white that is invisible, and I'm gonna take my paint and I'm just gonna cover the top with some blue paint. Now, if you don't have paint, you could use a construction colored piece of paper to put your leaves on. You could color it with crayon and marker. Just something that's a little bit interesting to put your leaves on. You don't want it to be just white. You can already see with the blue paint that the white is showing up. So when I hold my brush, a little brush work and technique work. This is the handle of your brush. This is the stem of your brush. And this is the hair of your brush. So you always hold your brush at the handle. That's why it's called the handle. And I call this gold area, or the stem, I call it the danger zone. So we don't want to get paint in the danger zone, then it gets really messy on our hands. And I like to call this part of the brush the ballerina. And so when we are painting, we keep our ballerina on our tippy toes. We don't want to smush our brush down and twist it to have spider legs or have her boot scootin', because you don't go to the booty scootin' ballet. We want her to dance on her tippy toes all the way across the paper and paint it. Okay, so now I have a really cool wet piece of paper, and I'm gonna let this dry and come back to piece of paper number 2 and that pencil. You might wanna dry your area a little bit. I got a little bit right there, but that's okay, I don't care. And I want to make a goal to make 1, 2, 3 leaves, 1, 2, 3 leaves. If you wanna fold your paper in half, so you know, okay, I'm gonna have these 3 leaves on top and these 3 leaves on the bottom, and they're gonna be in 2 different techniques. So when we draw our leaves, I'm going to start with the stem, which is a straight line, and a V. Now we wanna get a couple different shapes here. So I'm gonna start with just kind of a basic, using curved lines, and then add the stem. And then I'm gonna introduce you to a new leaf. So this one I went out and I had to put it in a plastic bag because it's dried and just crumble. But I went and I collected this leaf in a different state than Arizona. And you can see the stem that comes out and spreads out in those little V's that I was telling you about, and then the different design on this leaf. So I'm gonna make a straight line, and this time I'm gonna go out 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm thinking pointy. And I am just dealing with the space I had. Doesn't look exact, but that's okay because I want to fit one more leaf here. Straight line and a V. And this one I'm going to make an oval. So there's a lot of different leaf shapes that you can make. If you come up with a design and you just want to repeat those ones, great. All right, so let's get some color on these leaves. The first technique that we are going to do is going to be the fun one with pointillism. Now, George Seurat was an amazing artist that painted with dots. Again, if you don't have paint, you can do this in markers or crayons. But to paint our dots, I am not gonna have you use your finger because that would be messy. I'm gonna have you use a Q-tip. But I didn't grab a Q-tip. So pause the movie, run to your bathroom. Hopefully you guys have some Q-tips, and come on back with a couple Q-tips so that we can do some pointillism painting. Okay, so I have some Q-tips, and what we're gonna do is I'm gonna start here on the bottom, and I am going to take, and before I get painting, I want my leaves to pop out. So I'm gonna take a black crayon and I'm gonna outline them. Now, if you don't wanna do it in black, you can do it in red or orange or yellow, green, blue, purple. Uh-oh, you can tell I've been working out. I just broke that crayon. That's okay. Maybe I should switch to a more fall-like color. So let's try red. All right, so I have my leaves now outlined. To do pointillism like George Seurat, he would come up with a color combination and paint lots of dots and layer them and layer them and layer them. So we want to get our paint wet. So let's say I want to do a red and yellow one. I am just taking a clean brush and dipping water in it. And that's okay, I got a little green there. Then I'm gonna take my Q-tip, and I picked up some of that red paint, and I'm just gonna paint dots. Look at how fun that is. Now this is hard for some students because they just wanna wipe and swipe, but you have to go up and down like a dot. Now this one has red, so I can't use it in yellow. So I'm using the other end. I switched it to get the yellow. So that looks pretty cool. You want to definitely make sure though that your paints don't get too goopy and you're not digging out paint. You're really getting it watered down. This one, I'm gonna change up the color. And so I want to get a little orange wet, and I have to add some more water to my yellow. Because again, I don't want them to be goopy. So using a different end of the Q-tip to get those orange dots. Okay, so there's my yellow and orange. And this one I'm gonna do green and yellow. So get both of those wet. That's why we grabbed quite a few Q-tips using a different one. So I had a lot of fun using my Q-tips and paint to make some pointillism leaves. But if you didn't have paint, don't have a bummer. Don't be bummed. And you can get some markers, and we can use pointillism that way. It's not as fun, but it will do. So I'm gonna switch these upside down so my hand doesn't get wet in the paint. And I'm just going to put dots of green everywhere. And dots of yellow. Now sometimes when Seurat painted, he had so many dots layered on his paintings, and they were actually quite large, that the colors would mix to your eye. So he would put yellow and blue dots on top of each other and keep layering and keep layering. And the yellow and blue turned, what color do you think? That's right, green. It would take him years to paint. As you can imagine, this takes some time. We're just doing leaves. He would do all kinds of different pictures. Okay, so you could use markers for your pointillism. Another technique you can do is your resist. So just like we did in the background, I could have my yellow leaf here and say, you know what, I kind of like this purple color, and I just want to have some fun and make this purple leaf and have the yellow pop out, and that can be a resist. So you could have 3 leaves in pointillism. You could use marker if you don't have the paint. You could do some resist painting with crayon and watercolor paint on your leaves. Or you could mix your warm colors, red, orange, and yellow on the leaves if all you have is crayon. You can do a lot of interesting things by blending colors. And I'm gonna do that with this leaf with just crayon. So when I'm blending, notice I'm taking my second color, which is orange, and I'm going back into the red to blend it or mix it. So blending is when they kind of overlap, which you'll see that word come into play in a little bit. So the yellow kind of goes everywhere, all on top of the orange and the red to get those little white spots. Okay, so we have a couple different techniques for painting our leaves. Since these ones are wet, I'm gonna go set them to dry with my background. Okay, so another technique I'm gonna show you is textured rubbing. So I went to the dollar store and I was kind of excited. And then you probably don't have this, but I'm gonna introduce it to you anyway. And they have these rubbing plates at the dollar store. And some of them that I had like flowers in them that I got. And then these two had leaves. And I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. So you could take a textured textured plate like this, and you just rub your crayon over it, and it makes a leaf print. So let's test that out. Red one. So you get the print of the leaf there. When I was a little girl, where I lived in Chicago, they had beautiful leaves like this, so you could just collect them and rub them right away before they kind of dried and got crispy. If you don't have those, it's okay. Maybe you do have a special tree in your backyard where you could pick a leaf and trace it there. But we have our 6 leaves right there. And so on your second piece of paper, I want you to either practice some texture rubbing if you have it available. If you don't, I want you to at least make 3 more leaves. So I have this big guy here, and I'm gonna make 1, 2, 3 more. Because we wanna have a really nice pile of leaves in our finished example, kind of like a collage. I'm gonna leave it up to you how you decide to color these leaves. You might want to use your washable markers and see if you can get the color to kind of bleed out. I introduced that. Sometimes it works depending on your paper and marker. Sometimes it doesn't. Or if you just want to color them with marker, crayon, maybe you want to use some colored pencil, or maybe you have an interesting technique that you would like to use for your leaves. In the end, I want 10 leaves. And I'm gonna be honest, I really liked the Pointillism. It was fun, so I'm gonna do that for my last one. So I used 3 pieces of paper, and I have 3 and 3, which is 6, another group of 3, which is 9, 10 leaves I want to see. And now we're gonna cut them out, and we're gonna talk about laying them on our background to create an interesting design and collage them. So go ahead and grab your scissors, make sure your paper is dry, and cut those leaves out. Cutting leaves is not easy, especially for my younger kids. So remember, always cut the shape out first, And then turning into these little cuts is really hard. So what I suggest is just doing your best, even if you're, 5 or 6 and might not have great cutting skills yet, and I'm not with you in class, get as close as you can. And then I call my scissor like a little monster, and he's gonna go and he's gonna take a bite. And then he changes the direction, and he takes a bite out. Take a bite and a bite. And those bites, like little slices of pizza, just fall right out. And then I don't have to worry about if I turn and accidentally cut off part of my leaf. And if you do, that's okay. Cutting's not easy. That was a lot of cutting and a lot of mess. So before we start gluing, let's help our family out and make sure we throw out all of our scraps and our icky Q-tips and come on back with your cutout leaves, don't throw those out, and your background. Good job. I'm so proud of you for throwing all your scraps out. So now I have my background, it's dry, and I have all those beautiful leaves. So we are going to collage, which is cutting and gluing. I've kind of introduced that technique recently. And we're gonna glue all these leaves like they've fallen onto our paper. And so some of you might wanna think, okay, I don't want all my green leaves on top of each other. I wanna kind of add some contrast with the colors or the design. And when you find a design that's interesting to you, you can start gluing it down. So I have the big one that I did with the rubbing on the bottom. So I'm just gonna kind of flip them over so I know which corners these ones go. You can use glue stick, glue bottle, whatever glue you have. And there you have it, boys and girls. There is my leaf collage. So in your leaf collage, you have 10 leaves that you have cut and glued down. Not only have you collaged them by cutting and gluing them, but you did something you didn't even know. You overlapped. Overlapping in art is when one leaf goes on top of the other leaf, or one something goes on top of the other something. We know it's there, but we only see part of it because the other one is in front, partially covering the one behind it. I hope you had fun creating this leaf project with me. I can't wait to see what you create. Get the smaller guy, and we'll see. Let's get him out of here. Gotta be careful. I collected this leaf in Washington, and I'm gonna put it down on my paper, and I am gonna do my very best. You can hear him crunching. And I'm gonna make him red. Yeah. So I gotta hold that paper down. It's gonna be a surprise, but you can see the stem. And you can see some of the leaf there. Ooh, there's some of the leaf. It didn't work out very well, did it? He's a goner. All right, let's take 2. Let's try that again, boys and girls. We're just gonna, he's a goner. He was too crispy.